vicious serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy and the Boston Strangler, had something else in common.
Yes, all of them were cruel to animals before committing violent crimes against people. To discuss this link, we're joined by Dr. Julie Summerfield. Good morning, Dr. Julie.
Good morning.
Julie. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised by that link, really.
Oh, mouse up, where are you going?
I think she wants to go.
Yeah, you go and find your mummy. That was a quick appearance. Yeah, look, I think it does make sense in a way. It's a terrible thing to think of, but if you can be cruel to animals, then I think you probably can be cruel to anything. And there have been a lot of studies to show that kids or anyone who is cruel to animals are a lot more likely to go on and be violent towards other humans, be involved in crime. Bullying is another thing that is very highly correlated with animal... we're back again.
Now, this is Mouser is from the RSPCA.
Yes, and Mouse is looking for mummy. she's actually bonded very strongly to her carer, so she's gone to find her.
Let's talk about bullying. Well, children. I mean, often you would think children are basically inquisitive by nature, so they're likely to catch a fly and want to tear off the wings or rip legs off a spider or something like that. When does an inquisitive nature become cruelty?
Look, I think any intentional pulling of limbs off or hurting any living creature, I think, is intentional cruelty, and that's something that I would suggest people impart to their children, and, you know, that sort of respect and compassion for animals.
What do you see in your practice? Because you must see accidental cruelty every day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have seen some intentional cruelty, and that's a terrible thing. You know, we
can you give an example?
We swear an oath to, obviously, animal welfare, so that's our main concern. But more often than not, it's about unintentional cruelty, neglect, really, or ignorance, just not really knowing what pets need or just not noticing that they're sick. There's basically 5 freedoms that animals should have. That is, obviously, shelter, food, water, be able to express their natural behaviours, prevention of injury and stress, and love. They need our love. We're their world, and so it's our obligation as pet owners, really, to know what they need. See, even keeping a dog in the backyard and never walking it, I think, is cruel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If an animal's sick and that goes unnoticed, that's cruelty as well, but it's unintentional cruelty. So
what kind of over-loving?
Overfeeding.
What's the most common? And that would be it, probably.
Probably overfeeding and not understanding dogs in particular and their needs, and exercise and stimulation and boredom. That's, you know, frustration. Animals are sentient beings. They can feel fear, they can feel pain, they can feel frustration and boredom, all those things. So I think the thing is, as a vet, we've moved on a lot. It used to be sort of considered okay to, you know, kick your dog or give it a bit of a belting if it didn't behave well. But what I see a lot of is anxiety issues, and so if the dog wheezes on the carpet and you belt it, then obviously that anxiety is going to be a lot worse. And that's cruelty, but it may be unintentional if that person doesn't know any different. So it's about education.
What happens if you see a case of cruelty, if someone brings an animal in and you look at that animal and you think, I reckon somebody's doing something to that dog?
Yeah, well, I would, you know, sensitively broach that, and it would be my responsibility to report it to the RSPCA, as I think it's everybody's responsibility. If you notice or if you think that there's cruelty happening, then it's your responsibility to do something about it. It can be an anonymous call, and the RSPCA can send inspectors around. And as I said, sometimes it's just a matter of those owners being made aware of what they're doing is cruel. So, you know, it is an important thing. The RSPCA sees something like 55,000 cases of cruelty every year, and they range, you know, they're not always horrendously severe cruelty cases, but
some of them are extraordinary, like people who are found, you know, with 138 dogs living in their house, in their one-bedroom flat. I mean, those sorts of things. I mean, how do you deal with that then?
Well, I think that's difficult too, because I've seen cases like that as well, where someone's had just so many animals and they're not in a good state at all, and they love those animals. They're just not aware that what they're doing is cruel. So it's an education thing, and I think that probably crosses over into their own personal problems and things like that. So it's a complex issue. And, you know, going back to that violence thing, it is a human marker for a lot of human psychological problems as well. So it's not an easy one, but I think that everybody has a responsibility, you know, in terms of choosing the right animal for their lifestyle so that they can meet the needs of the animal, doing the research and knowing how a dog thinks and what they need, and not just about food but about behavioural needs as well and emotional needs. What
typically is the reaction of an animal when it's been cruelly treated, mistreated? Are they psychologically irreparably damaged, or...? Sometimes they
are. And a lot of surrenders that you see, you know, do have that sort of emotional baggage, but often they're very timid. But they can turn into aggressive animals as well. So, you know, they do one or the other. They're either defensive or they're very, very submissive.
And is that damage, is that psychological damage irreparable? I mean, are they likely to come out of that, or is it
not necessarily. I think there's probably always going to be some sort of personality trait there that's going to be easily reverted back into if a threatening situation occurs again. But with someone who understands dogs, or, you know, particularly we're talking about dogs, and can really mould their behaviour and train them, I think that obviously that they are very adaptable animals as well. But
unfortunately, people sort of sometimes buy animals for the wrong reasons. The Easter bunny rabbit, the Christmas puppy dog. You know, I mean, how many pigs and, you know, dogs did people buy after Charlotte's Web?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Finding Nemo was all the clownfish. Now that's another unintentional cruelty. You're buying it for the wrong reasons, treating it almost like a commodity. And these are animals. They're not toys. They're not toys. They're part of the family in a lot of cases, and they really need that respect. And I think a lot of it is education with kids too, teaching them compassion, teaching them respect for animals, and hopefully preventing a lot of that from happening in the first place.
Good. All right. Thank you so much for coming in,
Julie.
And we'll be right back with more of